And mine is about the weirdest team, in my opinion, in the NBA right now. And maybe you both would disagree. The Golden State Warriors. What is this team? I'm so confused by this team. Their starting lineup of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney is a minus 8.7 net rating on over 200 possessions. Minus 8.7 net rating this year. Last year, over 700 possessions, plus 22.1. The same exact lineup, the same five guys. Nothing different about it besides them each being a year older. I don't know how to explain that. I don't know if either any of you can explain that. On top of the fact that Draymond Green, yes, the same Draymond Green, the only one that you know, is shooting 47% from three on 3 attempts a game. So not like he's just not shooting at all. He's shooting 3 attempts a game and he's making over one. How can we explain this? Is this real? Is what we're seeing? Is this real for the Warriors lineup? Or is this like a blip, not enough possession, small sample? They're going to get back to at least maybe not dominating the league like they did last year, but at least performing well enough.
They're gonna get better, but I think it's Wiggins and Klay. That's where you have to. Draymond Green is not going to shoot this well, but his defense is what it always is. Like he gets one of the friendliest whistles around the league, which I don't mean that in like a critical way. I just mean he leverages that better than everyone. He's hanging around.
You can be critical of Draymond this year. It's okay. I think he's earned it.
But he's always in the paint. I always make quickly comparisons. Draymond Green is 6'7" quickly with a crazy wingspan. Like he somehow is a big who is playing free safety and has elite rim protection. He's one of the most unique, valuable defenders we've ever seen in the history of the sport, and he's still doing it. His shooting is going to come down to earth, but he's fine. Looney's still everywhere. He's still hounding the offensive glass. Steph Curry, I don't care what the impact data says, or excuse me, what the on-off data says. Steph Curry is still Steph Curry. He's amazing. I think EPM still loves him. I think he's like a top 10 player this year.
He's still top. He might be more than top 10. Yeah, he's still up there in EPM.
Weird aside, Chet Holmgren, 5th. Like, holy cow. We got to devote like a whole pod to him. What a play.
Wait till he faces off against Big Mitch.
That's just what a season that guy's having. But I agree that Mitch will give him. I hope Mitch gives him trouble.
That'll be a fun matchup. It'll be really fun.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, you look at Wiggins. Oh my goodness, sub 50% true shooting percentage. He's not. His assist percentage is a career low. Half of what it's been every year in Golden State. He's not passing at all. Turnover percentage, career high. His turnover percentage is twice as high as his assist percentage. Andrew Wiggins is. He's just doing nothing well right now. Absolutely nothing. Steal percentage, career low. Block percentage, lowest it's been since 2017. Rebound percentage, I mean, just across the board, he has been a worse basketball player in every way. On one hand, this clearly isn't reflective of who he's been, especially since he's come to Golden State. But similar to what you were saying about Jaren Jackson Jr., there's got to be something going on off the court because this makes no sense. He's 28 years old. This is supposed to be his absolute prime years. If I was the Warriors, with Steph and Draymond getting a little older, Klay getting a little older, I would have expected whatever's happening to Klay Thompson now. I would have expected a little drop off from Steph and Draymond. And I would have hoped to counteract this with better Wiggins. I would have assumed that Wiggins was going to take on more of a role and get even better. Instead, he's having the worst season of his career by far. And I think that's really, really hurting them. I think any positive uptick, any progression you see, it's going to start and end with him figuring it out. And if he figures it out, I still believe in this team because I still believe that they answered their number one most important question and problem, which is what the hell do we do when Steph Curry's not on the court? We're 20 games into a season, and right now, first of all, they're losing Steph Curry's minutes, which, that goes along with the starting lineup. But look, Steph Curry is Steph Curry. He's supposed to figure it out. His impact has always been insane, and I was shocked to see that they're still losing his minutes. And to me, that says, oh, his teammates must be really bad. Well, I don't know, because guess what? He also has the second worst off-court net rating. They're winning his non-minutes by 3 point, or his off minutes by 3.7 per 100. Andrew Wiggins is by far the worst there. They're winning the non-Wiggins minutes by 8.4 per 100. All this is to say, if Wiggins finds it and Klay Thompson shoots a little bit better, they're only those couple of moves away from me being like, I think they can still win a championship. So I don't think this is real, but I want to add a very, very important disclaimer that I don't think this is real if 28-year-old Andrew Wiggins didn't just forget how to play basketball. If Andrew Wiggins remembers how to play basketball, I don't think anything we've seen from the Warriors so far reflects who they truly are as a team, and I think they can still win a championship.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in super quick because I wanted to mention to your point about them losing the Steph Curry or losing this, obviously the Steph Curry on minutes and winning the off minutes. I think that's just a clear indicator of noise in the lineup data, because to me it's clearly the fact that he's sharing the court with Wiggins and Klay so much that they're just dragging his ability and the entire Warriors' ability to win minutes. So that's the reason for that, and I think that we can tell that by EPM having him as a plus 6.4 offensively, which might even be one of the highest of his careers in terms of his impact offensively. So I don't think we're seeing any regression from Steph whatsoever. He's shooting 43% from three on ridiculous volume as always. He's shooting really well from the rim. His true shooting is at 67.7%. He's not turning the ball over. Well, he's turning the ball over a little more than he has in the past, but I think we're seeing still peak Steph Curry. I think it's just the guys that he's sharing the court with. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with your part about the off minutes at all. I mean, we talked about this a few episodes ago. I think it's all to do with Chris Paul. Chris Paul's in the 88th percentile of EPM, and that's why I think they can. I don't think it's just random that they're winning the non-Steph Curry minutes. I think Chris Paul is a driver of winning basketball. He has been his entire career, and I think that he's elevating the bench players. I mean, look, we talked about Kuminga. Kuminga, is he great? No, he's not great. But guess what? They're winning the Kuminga minutes. They're winning all the bench players' minutes, and I think Chris Paul is the most important factor there. And EPM reflects what his impact this season so far has been. And I think the film backs it up too. Chris Paul's been terrific.
Just to be clear, my point is not that they're winning the Steph Curry off minutes because Chris Paul is playing. Like, that may be the case. My point is that Steph Curry's performance in terms of the team performance is being dragged down by the guys that he's playing with. I think if Chris Paul was playing with those same guys, I don't think they would be like, oh, it doesn't matter, give Chris Paul anyone and they win those minutes. I think because we can also see that in the impact data that Curry's offensive impact is like triple or maybe quadruple what Chris Paul's has been so far.
Yeah, for sure. Steph is a way better basketball player than Chris Paul. But I guess I maybe misunderstood, but you said that the off minutes being positive is mostly just noise, and I meant with regard to it looking like Curry's having a negative impact, like they're better without him on the court. That's what I was talking about specifically. Yeah. So I would agree that Wiggins and Klay right now are bigger negatives than anybody on the bench unit. So
right,
Steph
exactly.
Steph is being hurt by sharing minutes, but I agree with that. But I do think that's the thrust of my point, is that I think that they can maintain this level of effectiveness with their bench unit. And if Klay and Wiggins just find some level of positive regression, all of a sudden you have a starting unit that's one of, if they can be an average to above average starting unit with this bench unit, I think they can be a really good team.
I think there was some reporting. It was one of those weird, maybe leaked reports or whatever, suggesting that Wiggins, he had something going on last year, right, with his dad, where his dad got really sick or something, and he was away from the team for a while, came back for the playoffs. I guess the reporting is that he didn't train very hard this offseason, to say the least. Apparently showed up in training camp, and there were reports, I guess, that the organization or people in the organization were disappointed kind of in the condition he showed up in. I think they said the same thing for Klay. And look, I don't care about, I haven't looked at the impact numbers that you guys talked about, but every time I watch that team, I'm just like, Klay plays like a fucking idiot, and Wiggins is he's just bad. Like there's no other. Geoff said it right. Like it literally looks like he forgot how to play basketball half the time. The free throw stuff with him is insane. Where it's like you can't make free throws now either. But Klay, it's just like, dude, I'm like, are you trying to like win a championship in 2023, or are you trying to prove that you're still, 2016 Western Conference Finals Game 6 Klay? Because those are not the same thing. And it feels like every time I watch him, he's always trying to prove that he's still like 2016 Western Conference Finals Game 6. Like, it's like, dude, you're fucking in Game 17 of the regular season. Can you just take a normal corner three? Is that okay? Or like, can you just like pass the ball to somebody? Like, he's just trying to do way too much. It has not helped that Draymond, I think, like, yes, they have continuity, but Draymond's been in and out of the lineup, right? For a variety of, like, he's been suspended and whatever. Like, he's had shit going on. So I think that's part of it also. I still think Looney is really good. It feels like he doesn't have, it feels like something is a little bit off with him, but he's still really good. Like, it's not like he's bad. But honestly, I'll just say this. Like, I think they just need to mix things up. Like, that lineup, maybe it gets it back, maybe it doesn't. You don't need to start with it. That's for damn sure. And I think it's time that Moses Moody gets starts. I think it's time that, look, everything comes to an end. Great line from The Sopranos. But like, I think it's over for Klay, man. Like, if he's going to play like this, like, if he's just going to play stupid, like, I'm not talking, like, can he physically play NBA basketball still? Yes, he can. But there's something going on with him. I mean, he had this thing the other day, right, where he was like getting into it with a reporter who asked about him starting. And I'm just like, last year he had that whole thing where he's sitting on the bench and like they're getting blown out by the Suns and he starts like pointing at his hand and like counting the amount of rings he has. And it's just like, what the fuck are you even talking about right now? Like this has nothing to do with you being garbage right now at NBA basketball. And I just feel like I saw that interview he did, or that press conference he had with that reporter, that I was like, this reminds me so much of like when Melo went to OKC and a reporter asked him about coming off the bench. And he was like, what do you mean come off the bench? Like, I'm not coming off the bench. I'm fucking Carmelo Anthony. And I'm watching Klay and I'm like, Steve Kerr can't even have the conversation with him. And Steve Kerr won't, because like, and to be fair, like, you want to say what you want with these players, Steve Kerr's doing an awful job this year. He's been garbage, like just atrocious. Some of these, like, he pulled Moody from a game last week where he hit 3 threes in the fourth quarter because he's
against
like
the Kings.
That was nuts. I was like, I couldn't believe that. And I have I have like Andrew Wiggins on one of my fantasy teams. So I'm like cool with him coming back in, but I'm like, I wouldn't do that. Like, that seems really bad. And it was terrible. They lost the game, but like, they've got to move on from this old guard. Like, Steph is still Steph. And if you want to put up with Draymond's antics because he's still, like Geoff mentioned, like the defensive impact is still there. I still think offensively, like the last 2-3 years, he is so brutal sometimes with the shots that he won't take and some of the stuff he passes up. But I get like the overall impact's there. You want to roll with those two guys, that's fine. But man, I think Klay, this has to be his last year. Like, and honestly, I'd be happy to trade him if I were them right now.
The Klay thing is,
it's like depressing. Actually,
I'm gonna come off as a hater here, but I've never been sympathetic to the Klay cause. Like, he's gonna be a Hall of Fame. This idea that he carries this perpetual chip on his shoulder, when in my opinion he's going to go down as one of the most overrated historical players ever. I mean, he's never been one of the three.
Allen Houston didn't get to play with Steph Curry. Allen Houston was a better player than Klay Thompson.
Klay Thompson has never been one of the three most important players on a championship team in his life. And you hear people talk about him, and it started with, and I think XJ will have some sympathy for this because he's all about, the scientific data behind biases. The bias started the second he and Steph were referred to as the Splash Brothers, because it put them in this category together. Like, oh, they've got the two best shooters of all time. No, bitch, they've got the best shooter of all time and a guy who's really good at shooting. Like, no, I'm sorry, one is irreplaceable, the other I remember there was this awesome video.
Reggie Miller is better than Klay. Like I could list like
Right.
the shooting guards that are better than Klay, and it's not like there's a ton. Like I'm sorry, he's a Hall of Famer. I get it.
He's absolutely a Hall of Famer.
But like it's none of. I think his Hall of Fame credentials are like so. If you put him in like the Clippers for his career, is he a Hall of Famer? Like this is the thing with Klay that I think is so hard. Is like I would never punish him for having the good fortune of playing with Steph Curry. But to your point, it's like. Yeah, like
Draymond, by the way.
Right.
I think he had the good fortune of playing with Draymond. Like Draymond to me is so much more a foundational part of this Warriors dynasty than Klay Thompson. And I think if you asked 100% of basketball fans, they would say it's the opposite. And so that's why I think Draymond has a reason to have a chip on his shoulder. Like if I was Draymond and I knew how good and important I was, and everybody thought I was just this big joke, like, oh, you average 8 points a game, I would be annoyed too. And I would, but Klay Thompson, like pointing to his fingers, like, dude, everybody respects you. There's nobody in the world who thinks Klay Thompson is like, oh, you actually suck. Like, no, I am probably quote unquote a hater. And I think he's a lock Hall of Famer who deserves tons of respect. There's nobody out there who doesn't think Klay Thompson is really good. And I just could not be more annoyed with this idea that like, oh, we haven't fully appreciated Klay. No, he is. I'm sorry. XJ,
I think he's been overappreciated.
Right.
I hear what you both are saying. And I think it's to me, it's balancing like the kind of accolades that he's received relative to the impact that he's made that makes it feel like this. But I think you summarized it great, Geoff. I do think he's a Hall of Famer. I think it's some of the things like, oh, the biggest snub of the all 75 team is Klay Thompson. Like that's ridiculous. Like obviously to me, I would even put in Jokic over him at the time when they were doing the all 75. Jokic was already a better, in terms of his candidacy for Hall of Fame and in terms of his impact on the game, he was already there. Even Draymond, like it's just kind of funny because they're both on the same team and we're talking about the best 75 players ever. And all the attention was like, wow, they left Klay off. And you didn't hear a thing about Draymond Green in terms of the impact that Draymond Green has made with regard to changing the way that the positions have been historically used and his impact defensively, one of the greatest defensive players in the history of the game. That wasn't even a conversation. Nobody thought about Draymond Green. So I agree with you guys to an extent. I also still think that Klay was extremely, extremely impactful for them in terms of what they wanted to do, fit like a glove in terms of what they wanted to do, the perfect player to play off of Steph Curry, shot over 40% from three. And at, only 1 year, it was under 41% from three, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years in a row. Obviously a lot of that is due to the gravity that Curry was providing, but I mean, he was absolutely incredible.
You can't just go and shoot 40% from three.
No,
he is one of the best shooters ever. Like I want to make that very clear to anyone who's like, "Oh my god, this loser." Like I almost feel like we're talking about Jordan Poole last week. Like I hope everyone listening can understand that beneath all this is a huge level of respect for what again is a Hall of Famer and a very, very good basketball player. I'm speaking relative to like this perceived slight that is always there. I just couldn't disagree with that more.
Yeah. And that's fair. So I just wanted to reiterate that part. It just obviously Klay was exceptional across, a number of seasons, maybe 5 or 6 seasons before he had the injury. And I do think I don't know that they could have easily replaced him and still won championships. Like I wouldn't go out and say that, but I agree that Curry and Draymond were more
Would you think it in your more private? Would you think it internally in your more private moments though?
No, it depends on who the player is. Like, I would say anything to our audience. I don't care. Yeah, but like,
you had like a couple of drinks. Like, what are you thinking here?
I think his defense has been overrated. He's always been known as like the two-way player.
This is why we host a pod together.
He's always been known as like the elite two-way guard or wing of the modern era, and I think that is silly. To me, that's ridiculous. Like he's been a pretty good on-ball defender. Like that's been his role. Like,
but
if you swap Paul George,
who's a better
George and Klay? Paul George is like 1,000% a better player.
Of course,
They used to literally have that conversation. I swear to God, Schwinn, I was about to ask who is better, Paul George or Klay Thompson.
Yeah, it's not even close. Yeah, that's a silly conversation.
I can hear Reggie Miller being like, "Oh, well, we always talk about Klay Thompson's shooting, but nobody talks about his defense." No, everybody talks about his defense. He's not even the best defender on his team. He's not even the second best defender on his team. And when Kevin Durant was there, he's not even the third best defender on his team.
I'll just say, like, I've always thought that, like, I think Steph Curry's defense is like super underrated.
Absolutely.
And I've always thought that Klay's, I'm like, I watch it, I'm just like, what? Like, I can't remember a series where I'm like, oh man, Klay locked him up. Like, that's his value, right? It's like I've seen Quentin Grimes have a like actual, like, ingrained in my head lockdown playoff big time moment against a big time scorer. Like, I'm genuinely do not remember that from Klay Thompson. Like,
when I say Klay was versatile, so I think that the thing is he could switch onto a 4 and hold his own in these circumstances where, you know, everything was a mess and scramble, and it's like, okay, we ended up with this 4 on Klay and we'll be fine. Like, I think that was some of his strength, and I think that was helpful for having these, you know, Klay, Draymond Green, Steph Curry lineups. I think that the synergy there was really, really good, and that's why I don't think Klay is just like, oh, we could take him out and put in any 2 guard that could shoot and it would be the same thing. I think that he had some strength that worked perfectly with that group, but I think in a vacuum he's overrated in terms of his defensive impact.
Courtney Lee or Klay Thompson?
We've taken this a little bit too far. Can we also just have some appreciation and maybe disdain for Kevin Durant, but appreciation for the fact that Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, and Andre Iguodala were on the same team at the same time? Like, that has to be this idea. Like, remember the 96 Bulls versus 2017 Warriors conversation? Can you imagine if you put the 2017 Warriors in a time machine and had them go play basketball against the 96 Bulls? Like, they would win by like 700 points. That conversation was always so ridiculous. The one I'm actually a little bit more sympathetic to is the 2001 Lakers, just because Shaq wasn't just big and athletic for his time. Shaq, if you took prime Shaq and placed him in 2023, he would dominate the NBA just like he did. And so, like, I'm at least sympathetic to that because Kobe is one of the greatest players of all time, and Shaq is a unique physical force that I don't know how the Warriors deal with that. So I'm at least a little bit sympathetic to that. The 96 Bulls thing is just so silly to me. And they were starting like Luke Longley, you know, like, oh, okay, Luke, what are you going to do? 2017 Warriors, what are you going to do with that? You know, I don't know.
The Durant thing is just like, I mean, he's just an interesting, weird player. And hopefully he finds whatever the fuck he's looking for. I don't really care.
He wants to win a championship his way.
I do like that in my head. I'm like, Steph Curry has 4 championships. Kevin Durant has 0.
In your personal record book, yeah.
It makes sense though. Like, and I'm not even a Durant hater, and I actually think, by the way, that as blasphemous as this might sound to Warriors fans, and maybe even you two who, like me, think Steph Curry is underrated historically, I don't think the Warriors win another championship if Durant doesn't sign there during that era. I think the reason I think that is because the 2017 Cavs were better than the 2016 Cavs. So if you change nothing, but Durant doesn't go to Golden State, I think the Cavs win 2017 easier than 2016. And then I think that Kyrie doesn't leave Cleveland. And I just think things are much different for the next 5 years.
It's always tough though, because like they had whatever it was, like 35 million in cap space. So it's like, if Durant doesn't go, yes, but like, maybe they still get like, I don't know, somebody good, and that it changes everything. But like they could not have just like run it back again. Correct.
Yeah. But with that being said, you're the baseline of your point that that Warriors team, as valuable as Kevin Durant was, Steph Curry was the system. And like, so he deserves more credit for those rings than Durant does, in my opinion. And I don't think that's hating. I think that's a reasonable thing to say.
Yeah, this is not LeBron going to Miami. This was like Kevin Durant going to exactly Steph Curry's team, and Steph Curry's a better player. So yeah.
Yep. So we're all three in agreement again. Damn it, we need to find things to disagree on. This is